Hello, friendlies and friendlemen, and welcome back to Go Mode Podcast's Mentor Tournament 2020. Tonight's match is going to be Fartsplosion versus JohnTheBranch, our number 3 seed versus our number 6 seed. This is the fighter sword bracket, which is the lowest tier of our tournament, but certainly not the least. So with me is my co-commentator, Grimlegend.
How you doing, folks? I hope you have a good day so far.
And we've got Jere Dudecia on the Restream and Lumaga tracking for us. So, what can we expect to see in this in this race tonight?
So we're going to be looking at a standard start, no swords guaranteed. This is going to be new for these runners, as it's been nothing but ambrosia and open seeds. This time they're going to have to go through the front of escape with whatever item they give you inside of from Uncle. So that could be cane of Samaria, bombs, some along them lines.
Yeah, I used to play nothing but standard when I played casually, and I still vividly recall my very first seed. The uncle gave me the cane of Samaria, and I didn't find a sword for probably 2 bosses. That was a fun seed. I actually enjoyed that, but we see nothing of value in the chest in Uncle's house, and the rest is sort of on rails.
All right, making our way back into the drop point for our runners to go find out what weapon they'll have for this escape.
Yeah, interesting to note in this this logic mode, quick map check from Fartsplosion there. The uncle is guaranteed to give you a weapon of some sort. Now that could be something as useful as the bow and arrow. It could be a sword, it could be the hammer, or it could be something of sharply limited use, like say the fire rod.
So it looks like we're going to start off with the bow, and interesting enough, the guards are going to have the bomb packs. So Fart does not see that yet, but John knows. So this could be a pretty big help for them. I'm pretty
my
sure
guess is going to be that by the time they get that far, they probably will have killed enough guards. It was in the first 2, so
I would be shocked if they don't accidentally wander upon a bomb for sure.
Also, since they picked up the bow from the uncle, they got 30 arrows automatically. That doesn't normally happen when you pick up the bow, but when it's granted by the uncle in standard randomized swords, it gives you 30 arrows, because otherwise it would be a pretty disappointing weapon to get, because it doesn't do much on its own.
Yeah, it doesn't allow you to whack people over the head with the bow.
Just like I wish it let you throw the arrows like darts, but that's neither here nor there. Ooh.
Yeah,
Fartsplosion almost taking a tumble.
Good moment, or a good movement on John's part to avoid catching that guard's attention.
Now, we've only got a couple of chests in this front section to hopefully find something interesting. We do see the map, which means that we will not be able to leave the sanctuary chest. If you go through all of the escape section and you don't see the map, then you can skip the sanctuary chest, because you know that it's going to have that map.
It's the same thing with the key as well. If he goes by and the key is not inside of the prison chest, then key is guaranteed to be on Dark Cross.
Yeah, unlike in open can have that key in the back section. But since you have to go through this at the beginning, it can't very well lock it out of you. Oh, Fartsplosion forgets he actually needs to pick the big key up. I do that myself altogether too frequently. And we do see the book, so that's going to be some guidance.
With an early book, you might want to start looking at Desert Palace. Now, the interesting thing will be is if it's boots locked or not. But that probably tells you that something important will more than likely be in there. Whether
it makes it more of a gamble to leave it early on.
Absolutely.
Worth noting that it can't be cleared until we have a source of fire. We can make our way to the back once we have gloves, but without fire, we can't actually make it to the boss chamber.
Right. That admits as well.
And there's only 2 checks in the dungeon itself, one of which could be on the boss. So it's kind of in a Skullwoods situation at this point. It's the Skullwoods of the light world as far as this particular seed is concerned.
For sure. So, so far, Fart has not found those bombs. They are really getting unlucky on the drops to find out what that prize pack is.
Yeah, I'm not entirely familiar with that mechanic and the way it works, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's somewhat similar to the original Legend of Zelda, where if you take a certain number of enemies out without taking damage, then you sort of cycle through, you know, like the 10th enemy holds the bomb sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not familiar with it.
So the one problem they have is they get through this without actually taking out the snakes. I don't know what the rats have yet.
Yeah, the snakes share the same prize pack as the bombs. It looks like he's going for the damage boost. Oh,
Oh,
he finds 1 bomb. That's all he needs.
Yeah, that could have been really big if he would have somehow got through without getting any of those bombs off the snakes, because John would have been able to open up the back of Escape when Bart would not have been.
Yeah, and since we've seen the map and, of course, the key, it would have 3 guaranteed items. Sometimes in open, you can drop down there, you get map key and, you know, a single green rupee.
And
both of them are going to be able
careful.
to.
He's down to 1 heart.
Yeah, these rats aren't the most dangerous of enemies. You can see they only do a 1/4 heart here. Yeah, he's standing still, very still.
Please don't hit me.
Okay, he's got 1 more hit left. I think he's hoping for a heart drop here.
Oh, he got it.
Oh, no, he was still hunting that rat.
And here you want to just take your time, wait for the rats to go by. You only got 1 bomb.
Yeah, the bow is a nice weapon to have. It's a nice item to see early on, but it is sort of finicky at the tail end of this escape section.
So we'll refill our arrows a little bit, but that was about it.
And half magic in the sanctuary chest. Not something you're looking for necessarily, but you take it. There are a number of places it can come in handy later on, like an early blind or an early Mothula with fire rod, that sort of thing. Blind with safety, like a cane of Burna or something.
For sure. Half magic is nothing to sneeze at. I definitely enjoy having an early half magic. It allows you to not have to really worry about how much magic you're using.
Oh, we have our first sword just sitting out there in the forest. This is the sort of thing I always hated to see when I was first started playing, because half of the excitement for me was, you know, having to make do without your sword. And it's always kind of disappointing when you find it right away. It's like, oh man, now this is just normal Link to the Past. But these runners are certainly going to be happy to see that. That opens up a lot of options for them.
It allows you to also use any of the medallions too. For when trying to get in the TR and Misery Mire, sometimes that can be a bear if you don't find one right away.
And John is on to the Kakariko Village checks. A slightly faster escape overall. But both of them are still pretty close. You know, it's under 10 minutes in. Anything can really happen at this point. But John definitely had slightly better execution throughout the escape sequence.
There's a nice bottle, allow you to clear most of CAC outside of Bat.
Yeah, going through all of Kakariko Village without finding a bottle it's not terrible, but it does mean you have to. Ooh, Fartsplosion is going for the ped check early. This is sort of like an extended lumberjack check. Finds out it's only some rupees, but if Fartsplosion found out right here and now that was an important item and this was a ped seed, that would have been extremely important information.
Oh yeah, that's an understatement. Because you're talking about, oh, that's unfortunate too. But you're talking about knowing I have to go clear here, 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 where John not having that information would be like, oh, well, I'm going to clear these pendant dungeons, and where's this item?
Yeah, the default hope is always that you don't have to do the pendant dungeons. Like, when you're doing your map checks, the first thing you see, okay, what are the pendant dungeons? Cool, I don't have to do those. Probably. Because 1 out of 216 checks is that pedestal. The chances that it's going to be something you need is slim most of the time. But that's some nice presence of mind, given that we saw that book.
Yeah, I personally like to check PED when you go through, and when you finish Skull Woods. That way you
given that you have the mirror, which we know they have, having found it in the well.
Just pop right on over, take a quick check. You're there already anyway. And you're generally going to do that earlier anyway.
So far, a relatively okay Kakariko Village. We haven't seen any hard progression other than that book. Nothing that strictly opens up any areas. Items like that would be the gloves and the hammer.
Oh, there's some
having those boots.
That makes me want to go check Desert Palace, even without the fire source. That kind of screams, hey, I probably have something in here you might need.
Yeah, because I would say probably at least 70% of the time, both of the item checks are in the front anyway. You don't end up having one on the boss too often. And with those boots, you're guaranteed to be able to check all of them. So
for sure,
that makes Desert a very attractive play. Also, you can sort of translate that into an Agina's Cave play, which is ordinarily a sort of more often orphaned check.
Yeah, for sure, early.
This is one of the few circumstances where it might be convenient to check that early.
And John, seeing that blue mail on the race game, is going to definitely go back and get it.
Yeah, that's not something you can live without it if you're pretty confident in your skills. But it's a gamble you don't want to end up taking. You don't want to, I'll probably leave it. I'll probably find another one, end up not finding another one, end up having to fight Ganon with green mail. Not an attractive proposition. That's not worth the time it takes to run and do that.
Fart's going to come down and get his boots as well.
Now that's somewhere you do want to see boots. You want to see boots. If you see boots early, you want to see it in a place you know you're going to check, because then you don't have to wonder whether your opponent got it first. And you can just rest easy knowing that you're going to be gotta go fast the whole time.
I do like to go faster. There's our mitts, by the way. Nice find in the dam.
Fire away from a full clear of desert, which is a crystal.
And Fartsplosion also seeing it is definitely going back. It's interesting that both of them just dropped down to go check it.
I would, having found the boots.
Yeah.
It's a lot more painful to have to walk back around, but if you can just zip right over and then zip back, I don't know if it really works out that way, but it feels like less of a time loss. And there we have the shovel.
Sometimes, especially if you don't have a whole lot of progression inside of Kakariko, just blind check it. You can get about to the halfway point, see it's not there, and do the same thing. As compared with something.
Yeah, I feel like that strat is kind of gaining some steam.
And John falls down. Throws a few arrows and decides to just whack him with this.
Looks like Fartsplosion is going to go directly for Mini Moldorm Cave. I imagine their plan here is to skip Ice Rod Cave and hit the floodgates on the way over to the desert.
That would make sense. And they're going to find a Moon Pearl, the Bloomerang, and Bomb.
That might throw a wrench in that plan. Because with the Moon Pearl, then the Waterfall Fairy check with fake flippers and the Water Walk is on the table now.
Yeah, it's always nice to Water Walk, because that makes that hobo check. Or you could even, makes that hobo check much more appetizing.
Now we're going to see if Fartsplosion decides to take that bait or follow the logic and go with the Okay, yeah. It's probably worth it having found that Moon Pearl to quick go over here and route Ice Rod Cave and all these other checks in.
So it'll be interesting to see after Ice Rod if he does come back, save and quit, or if he finds enough money. Because right now you don't have enough for Zora. Yes, you can check the Waterfall Ferry, but
yeah, sometimes I'll go up and check Zora Ledge even if I don't have enough money, because it does give you information on what that Zora Ledge item is.
Yeah, for sure.
And it sort of helps you route back in. Okay, well, at what point do you go back and I mean, I suppose if it's a really useful item, there are ways to get it.
So
even if you don't have real slippers, but
Fartsplosion just saved and quit to Bonk Rocks. Didn't check. Damn. I'm a little puzzled by that play. I'm not.
It could just be a personal preference sort of thing. I've known myself and some other runners to forget that Bonk Rocks is available, especially with early boots. If you've done a lot of seeds with late boots lately, and it's like, oh right, Bonk Rocks is available. Better not forget that. That could be a factor here, and maybe checking, checking Lumberjack.
See if Agina's required at the moment.
Definitely valuing that information. This is similar to the pedestal check earlier. Just 10 arrows. I'm expecting a save and quit to Link's house.
All right. And hopefully we see that dam check and then off to desert. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and while we were puzzling over Fartsplosion's routing decisions, John found a Master Sword on Hobo. It's out of logic, but with a sword you don't really care.
No, Master Sword is also very nice to have, because then you can check Ether when you go up to Mountain. You can check Bombos when you get to that point as well.
It is looking like that is the only item of note that John found at that water walk. But I assume both of these runners are sort of going to meet up here. And, oh, no, John going over to Eastern.
Looking like a closet check from here.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to see Fartsplosion decide to go and check just take care of that shovel check right now.
It makes a lot of sense. You're right there.
It makes a little bit of sense, but since we've seen Mirror already, you can easily route this into the Dark World checks in the same area. The only risk is whether or not it's an item you need right now or not. And it's the lamp. That's definitely paying off there.
So we're going to go ahead and run right to Desert Palace. It's a crystal.
Ooh,
you clear it right now.
John found his third sword in the closet.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, another play that would have made sense on Fartsplosion's side. Well, no, never mind. I was going to say the mountain, but we don't have Hookshot or the hammer. So we could make it to Hera, but I'd say we go through Desert first. And if you find the hammer or the Hookshot, then great. You can do East Side Death Mountain on the same trip.
So that Tempered Sword's really big, because I don't know when Fart's going to get a chance to go over to do Hobo. And where was Tempered at again? Closet. So that Tempered could be put off for a little bit. I can't imagine for too much longer, but John getting his way. And the first Desert Palace chest is going to be Master Key, our big key. Get their little key and head over to the right side. Got to be careful though, he's on only a few hearts. Where he's going to get 10 arrows, leaving one more item inside of Desert Palace. And he's going to head out and just go straight to the back. No, he's going to get the fairies in the back. Okay, I see that play. No, he is going to leave. Go down, check Desert Palace Ledge, get that heart.
Yeah, I actually like to do this myself. Oh, actually, what I would have done in that situation, I suppose he's hoping that the last item is on the boss. That's a reasonable play to make. If I haven't seen either of the items, I would go out, check the desert ledge. If you have mirror, then you come back in, go all the way to right side, check those chests when you've got your second item. You just mirror straight out and you're ready to go back.
Yeah.
Oh, boldly not picking up that red rupee.
I don't know. Even when I'm in go mode, I kind of still try and pick up the red rubies. Just that appeal to it. Makes you want to just pick it on out.
Yeah, you know, when you're playing these games casually, it's like you never know when you're going to wish you had 20 more rupees. Think of all the mini games you could play.
And we see bombs on the right side. Vanilla big key chest. So it'll be interesting to see if when Fart sees that this is nothing, if they go back to find it.
I would imagine that's the idea. And this routing, that routing makes more sense with mirror, or without mirror rather. Because that sort of hedges your bets in case, okay, if you find it on the boss, great, you jump straight down to check Agina. If you don't, then you can just sort of turn around, take that right side exit, and go down to Agina that way. Either way, it's pretty close to Agina. But with the mirror, it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah. Fart trying to shoot him with the bow and arrow. A little bit of
unfortunately, that fighter sword fight is going to be a lot longer than John's.
Oh yeah, that's the benefit of that tempered sword early. He's going to gain a bunch of time that is going to take Fart to finish. And he's on to one heart, so he needs to be careful for sure.
Yeah, Fartsplosion made the sort of smart play of like, okay, logic is pointing pretty heavily towards the Desert Palace. Let's just go there right away because it seems like we're going to find something interesting there. John's approach isn't, by contrast, bad. It's just a little bit less sort of, you know, let's follow the breadcrumbs here, and it ends up rewarding him with 2 swords, one in logic, one out of logic, but swords nonetheless.
And Fart's going to go ahead and finish that Landmo fight, and we'll see if he decides to come back in. I've got to imagine they do. They had all that pointing to Desert Palace.
Yeah, and when you make that hard read like that, well, not a hard read, but you know, you devote yourself to this dungeon, you don't leave one item in there.
No. But he'll go out that right side. If hopefully they remember, just jump on down, check Agina. They already checked Agina, didn't they?
Yeah, they might have. I admit I was not paying attention. To that particular detail. John finishing up Landmos with relative ease. Also picking up that boulder with similarly relative ease.
Well, we're going to see the Agina check from John. He's going to mirror back. All right, and it's just 3 bombs. I believe Fart did go here. Well,
Doesn't look like it.
does not look like it. For some reason, I thought I saw them go.
Actually, maybe that was faster to mirror out there than to dash through 2 rooms with 2 screen transitions. Because with the Pegasus boots, you can close that distance in the overworld pretty quickly. We'd have to get a stopwatch on that, but I think the time loss would be negligible if it's even there.
Yeah, for sure. I imagine we'll see it play up the mountain.
Yeah, it's a little unattractive without access to East Death Mountain, but with the mirror, we have full access to Tower of Hera. So that's the one situation where it would make sense.
Yeah. So now the question is, you got everything you need for Aga. Do you just bite the bullet?
I would say no. Given that access to more of the mountain would be on Just Hammer, access to more of the Dark World would be on Just Hammer, which would negate the need to defeat Aghanim entirely. Unless you find the hook shot, I would say you don't. It would be a pretty bold play to defeat Aghanim without having found the hook shot.
Both runners about the same place.
Yeah, that being said, with the bow, it makes a little more sense. I sort of run into the trap of sort of basing my seeds or basing my logic decisions. Oh, we find the hammer there, so Aga is dead.
That's also a little unfortunate for Fart too, because they don't find anything here. That's going to push him over to check that fake flipper spots, where he would get their tempered sword.
At the same time, though, we could see a push towards the Palace of Darkness area, since it is fully completable now. And at that point, as you're going through with the mirror, you may as well mirror back and check Saha's closet. So at least the Master Sword won't be too hard to pick up. But as I was saying earlier, I sometimes base my my route judgment based upon recent seeds, and I often get bow really late. So I sometimes will undervalue the Aghanim into pod just because bow locked side isn't available logically. So the likelihood that something progression will be in pod is a lot lower if you don't have bow. That is a moot point now, since we found that hammer.
And okay, it's just a shield. For a second there, I was thinking it might have been red mail. Or yeah, red mail.
Ooh, Deadrock wasn't even able to grab that shield.
Move slightly off screen to despawn that Deadrock.
Well, it doesn't despawn him. He just runs away really quickly when you're not looking.
He's like, I'm done here.
Yeah, you grab that bottle. Second bottle. Why not?
And with nobody having a hook shot, we will not be seeing any Harapot. And since we can't Harapot, we will be doing basement right away for that master, or that big key.
This is one situation where you kind of do like seeing this. You do run the risk of saying, okay, if my opponent didn't go immediately up here, they could have found the hook shot first. But otherwise, it's pretty safe to say it's like, okay, well, basement is logically required. At least both of us have to do it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Looks like John's getting his coffee break while Fart is going to run for his life, dodging piles.
Bonus gameplay.
Absolutely. And fun fact, I believe it's Enemizer that changes the floor tile pattern. So it's not a skull, it could be a boot, it could be a couple other things, I believe.
I'm glad both runners having the presence of mind to remember they do have the mirror. Sometimes you can easily fall into the trap, along with boots, of forgetting you have that item. And unfortunately, this tempered sword is really going to be paying dividends for John.
So with Harapot, it's always going to be required that you have a hook shot because you need to pull yourself into the pot. You can do it without having boots, and you can do it with boots. It kind of depends on your preference and setup, but you always have to have a hook shot in order to do Harapot.
Now, I believe we have one item remaining. We saw the bottle in the basement, and there it is,
bottle.
Red Rupee.
So Tower of Hera not providing any support for us today.
That's all right. We found that hammer, so that's almost the whole world open.
So
right, because you got Village of Outcasts, you got Eastern Palace of Darkness area. As soon as you find the flippers, you could dip down into Swamp if you really wanted.
Yeah, I have a feeling we'll see some kind of progression inside of East F Mountain. And that gets yeeted off the tower.
It's insult to the injury of an already guaranteed longer Moldorm 1.
Again, that tempered sword comes in pretty big because you just need a swing slash and a regular slash to defeat him, where if you have the hammer, it's going to take 3 hits.
Yeah, hammer has the potential to be just about as fast, but it's a lot more finicky. Yeah. Nicely done, though, second try.
Get that second crystal. And
John looking like he's not going to forget Spiral Cave. Sometimes that can happen. You're so eager to get to that Paradox Cave that you go through and it's like, oh cool, I found something neat. And then you save and quit before realizing, oh shoot, I forgot to check Spiral Cave.
And they're making their way down. So one of the things I like to do here is, with that mirror in hand, you could go through the bottom already. Save that screen transition, just remove the block with that 1.0 pitch.
Yeah, a lot of runners sort of forget about that, since a lot more often you use the hook shot to get over here.
Yeah.
And then you sort of come from the bottom, and it doesn't make it that much sense. At that point, you just sort of go up the normal way.
And we're gonna see, we got for the old Paradox, 50 rupees, heart piece, another heart piece, more money, and a whole lot more money.
Yeah. So we might be looking at, as far as Light World checks go, we don't have a whole lot of them left. We've got the King's Doom, which is locked. Well, I mean, it's available because we do have Mirror and access to that area of the Dark World. We have Zora, and we do have that Eastern Palace dip, but as time goes on, that's less and less likely, since we now see John going over to Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, that play makes sense for sure.
Yeah, with that red crystal on blind, I would say we definitely see an early Thieves Town here. I say early, but it's going to be number 3.
But definitely, I would make that play. You can full clear it. You got the hammer.
Yeah, you can make a case for checking the front of Skullwoods, but this particular situation would sort of be your weakest case for that.
Yeah.
Thieves Town so juicy.
Get them 4 checks. Well, it's actually about 7 with all of Village of Outcasts. Another heart piece. Pulls it, see if they continue. No, they're going to go straight on in.
Check number 1. Now, one of these front checks is guaranteed to be the big key, because you need it to get further in. You see the map. It's possible that we could see... It's sometimes possible to see none of the 4 item checks in the front. You could be big key, small key, map, compass.
That only happens when it's a pendant.
Yeah, only then. Fartsplosion making his way into Skull Woods. Again, this is a little bit of a long shot. There are 2 checks in Skull Woods, and both of them could be locked behind Fire Rod. Given that this is a pendant dungeon,
it's a
bit. You're hoping for something here.
Is it mismarked? Okay, it's mismarked on.
Yeah, that does.
So
that would influence the decision. Yeah, it looks like Fartsplosion is playing an 8. Yeah, there we go. It's corrected. Oh yeah. Fartsplosion playing a special edition of the game with 8 crystal dungeons.
He wants
only 2 pendants. That's why he checked pet early, because he knows he only needs to do 2 dungeons.
Payoff is huge. Go to the middle of Skull Woods.
I imagine Fartsplosion's hoping to find another sword too. You get at this point, you go into Village of Outcasts, you're like, okay, I still only have Fighter Sword. You know, maybe there's one hiding in the front of Skull Woods. Unfortunately, we know where 2 of them are, so if we see another one, it's all 4 of them.
Right there. So if he does find a sword in there, he more than likely will pull the butter sword, with both those being in Hobo and Closet. And I can't imagine you staying out of those for too long.
Yeah, I could potentially see, given that the sword was the only thing of note in Sahasrarla's Closet, if it gets too late in, you could potentially forget you never checked that.
Yeah.
That can happen. That's one of the checks that can happen with, if your seed is pointing in a specific direction and you're like, okay, you know, I'll keep putting that off, and new stuff keeps coming off, and you keep putting it off. Sometimes that can happen. A check that you know you always check just ends up, you never get around to it and sort of forget about it.
Yeah, especially once you hit that go mode.
Yeah, I know I've done that with Lake Hylia Island more than once, especially if you do multiple races in a day. You remember the wrong time checking it.
Yeah, oh yeah, that definitely happens. Get that seed lag where you're blending into other seeds.
It's like, did I check that? Was that this time, or was that 2 hours ago?
And we're gonna see that. Got a map. And it is looking like both are on Firelock's side.
Yeah, that's definitely worst case scenario for a Skull Woods dip. A lot of people advocate for, you know, oh, Skull Woods, that's just overworld checks, but it's a little different, and that is exactly why. It's because it's possible for there to be no chance of finding anything useful there
And
beyond just, you know, junk checks.
Yeah, for sure. And the percentage of something being there is really low too.
And a lot of runners, though, have gotten burned enough by progression in the front of Skull Woods that, you know, you don't leave it every time.
Yeah, I mean, this really hasn't filled out all that well to begin with. So I could see them going in there. Hey, take a check. If it's here, great. If not, well, okay.
Now, what do you make of Fartsplosion forgoing the Village of Outcasts and making their way along the North Shore here? Because to me, this is not the obvious play, and Fartsplosion has made. Well, I guess the desert play was a pretty obvious play. So this is really the first non-obvious play that they've made so far.
Well, they also went up and did bonk rocks right away as well after Ice Rod.
Yeah, that does make this a little strange, considering that you can route bonk rocks in really easily to this. I expect that we're gonna see. They really want to get that catfish into Zora area.
And John picking up his Quake, so we only have an Ether from being able to clear Misery Mire and Turtle Rock without any worries. But,
speaking of Turtle Rock, Green Pendant.
Oh, 100% there's something there. Anytime it's Green Pendant Turtle Rock, you know.
That Green Pendant makes Turtle Rock worth effectively 7 checks all on its own.
Turtle Rock's one of those ones you really wish you just don't have to do, but always end up finding your way in there.
It isn't an interesting case, though, just logically speaking, because it has so many entry requirements. It's not necessarily overwhelmingly likely you're going to find progression in there. But when you start getting late into a seed and you're still looking for just, one item, and it's not one you need to traverse or get into Turtle Rock, that's when you start sweating about it. You're not worried if you're still looking for Mitts. You're not worried if you're still looking for Hammer. You're not worried if you're still looking for Samaria. You're usually not worried if you're looking for Fire Rod. Anything else, though, and it starts to look more and more likely.
And Fart going to get a safety before heading into Turtle Rock or Thieves Town, and John finding out that Stumpy's only going to give you half a heart, or heart piece.
That's a quarter of a heart. That's a whole half of a half.
He's not even giving you half his heart, folks.
Now, this area John's in right now is sort of what I mentioned earlier. This would be a place where ordinarily you'd like to route in the shovel check.
Yep.
Both runners having done it early and gotten, paid off rather handsomely with it, since Tower of Hair would not have been clearable without that lamp, given that we had to do the basement.
Yep.
But it's very convenient to be able to route that shovel check into that area. You just mirror, dig it up, mirror back, on your merry way.
And we're seeing John going over to Hype Cave, hoping that it is in fact hyped.
Yeah, at this point, John's got a pretty comfortable spot. Fartsplosion has that north shore, but having not found anything there, and they didn't even go all the way to Catfish. Mitts, that's good enough for me in Hype Cave.
And an ice rod, but you actually don't want to see the ice rod. You hope that ice rod's buried deep in GT.
Yeah, ice rod is pretty it's worse when Turtle Rock is a green pendant than if it was just a red or blue. Just because it's like, okay, well, that's 2 checks because of that green pendant.
Yeah. So then you got that Tempered Sword's coming in big again, because blind, while yes, you have to hit him 9 times, doesn't matter if it's a Master Sword or Butter Sword, but with every sword the reach gets longer and it gets a bit bigger and easier to hit somebody. So they're going to benefit from that, where Fart is not.
Yeah, that said, Thieves Town is the Dark World dungeon to be doing with Fighter Sword. Those horsehead monsters have a ridiculously low amount of health. The blue ones die from a spin slash with Fighter Sword, which always kind of puzzled me. Especially since it's supposedly the 4th one. Though it has no entry requirements, you could do it. You could do it second if you wanted to. In the vanilla game, that is.
Yeah, I definitely do that one before that, because you're going to get the Tempered Sword and have Tempered for Moth instead of Master Sword. But it's interesting because you're in vanilla game, you don't get any mail until you're in Ice Palace, which is the 5th crystal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Just don't get hit.
Yeah.
Easy.
Just bob and weave.
Yeah, so John's sort of sitting on a comfortable lead right now, not making any unnecessary checks. The biggest danger of that was those, that out of logic sojourn up to, the waterfall ferry, and ended up finding the Master Sword on Hobo, went over to Eastern Palace, a little bit questionably, and ended up getting the Tempered Sword out of it. So it's sort of paying off for him, deciding to go this very logical route out of Thieves Town, down across the south side of Dark World into Hype Cave, finding the mitts in there, which is nice, and into his third crystal dungeon, or fourth crystal dungeon. So we're coming up on 4 crystals here. And
the nice thing about the Tempered Sword is if you got a Fire Sword and your Master Sword and you haven't found anything and it's getting a little late in the seed, you start to wonder, is this going to be a Master Sword Ganon? Once you get that Tempered, you're like, oh, okay, I can just clear and not think about it too much. And then if I come across silvers, so be it. If I come across butter, so be it. But I don't have to worry about the fights too much anymore.
Yeah, Master Sword Silverless is a very different fight than Tempered Sword Silverless.
For sure. I think Master Sword Silverless is 24.
Yeah, I think it's 12 first phase, 12 second phase, 24 last phase. It's a marathon.
Got to be careful down to the one's going to use that red potion smartly. And then hopefully we see him finish off. And does so. Very nice.
Looks like John's already heading into the heading towards the back of Palace of Darkness. I don't recall seeing the back side of it
back there either. I think they just went straight to boss and just gonna go from here, maybe save and quit out of Lumberjack. Or not Lumberjack. Big Key chest. Or I'm sorry, just Big Chest. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the mirror, so that's another option. I mean, I guess we have 2 keys, 2 small keys here, so I'm not sure exactly what the rationale is behind skipping everything in the back. Because that's a lot of checks.
Yeah, I mean,
like making the boss first and then dipping in like it's left side swamp or something. I'm not sure how much value there is to that.
I don't think that would make a whole lot of sense for pod though.
Yeah, like maybe late if you're 1 item from go mode or something. That's a gamble you might decide to take, especially having just found something useful like mitts. But we still got some stuff to find here.
Yeah, because you're gonna need Cane of Samaria. You're gonna need
flute. And hookshot. And logically flippers. Oh, I mean definitely flippers for swamp. So we still got some looking to do.
We'll see what their play is after this, as down goes Helma.
Interestingly enough, Fire Rod is not necessarily required here, since Turtle Rock and Skull Woods, the 2 hard required uses for that item, are both pendants. I suppose. Is there a part in the GT climb where you need the Fire Rod, or could they look out and not find it in right side basement?
About that, I don't think you do. No, because Trinexx or Turtle Rock would be Fire Rod, but Misery Mire, no. Ice Palace would be nice. Swamp Palace, no. Yes and no. I mean, in all
there's the torch puzzle that you like to have it for in the Ganon's Tower climb.
Yeah.
But I think it can be done without it.
Yeah, you can do it without it. So they're going back to that left side.
It's kind of like those seeds where it's like, oh, I guess I didn't find the mirror, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, but that's always sad, though.
Yeah, same with flute, flippers,
and Fartsplosion
boots,
picking up their ice rod and Titan's mitts.
Yeah, John decided to go fight the boss first. Interesting. I wanna try and ask about that. I hope I don't forget. Yeah, I'm guessing, given that this is the Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament, if we make it to Ganon's Tower without Fire Rod... Oh, hook shot in the back. If we make it to Ganon's Tower without Fire Rod, I would put money on needing to go back out and look for it, because the big key is going to be on the right side. Just saying. We've seen that once before with another particular red item.
John is leaving Palace of Darkness when Fartsplosion finds his red man.
And turns yellow.
And they are also going to head into Pod.
Yeah, chat asking if it would be possible for the game to put the big key there if you don't have Fire Rod. Well, if you could have Fire Rod, then the game can put anything anywhere at once, really.
And Fart is going to pick up his Master Sword.
Yeah, this is very convenient routing for Fartsplosion. Fartsplosion loses a lot less time to this check than John did. Is worth noting. Even though Fartsplosion is behind right now, it just, you know, realistically speaking, I guess we missed Flute getting picked up.
He got it off Helma.
Oh, okay, yeah. That explains it. I was not paying attention to that fight at all. But, going back to Fartsplosion, this routing this into on the trip to Pod ends up it's a very convenient way to route that in.
For sure. John picking up flippers inside of Meyer shed.
This seed has been very nice to John.
Yeah, he's made all the right guesses so far.
It's one of those things where it doesn't even feel like you're making the right guesses, but it's just like the game is like, oh yeah, here, have this. Oh, you're still playing, just have this. You know, it's just giving you the stuff that you want. You know, not necessarily exactly what you're looking for, but you know, it's good to have. John's probably gonna make the Ice Palace play right now.
Yeah. And then this is where that Ice Palace bomb jump knowledge comes into play, because a lot of people can do the icebreaker, but a lot of people haven't really polished up on that Ice Palace bomb jump, and sometimes you can see that. So
yeah, I think this is sort of an increasingly popular play, because you can really get bitten hard by, you're like, oh well, Ice Palace is in logic, but I'd really like to hold off until I find the Cane of Samaria. And despite how attractive that prospect seems, it's not a good strategy overall. Because just because of the possibility that, you know, Cane of Samaria is in Ice Palace. I've seen it on Cold Stare a number of times. Sort of on the flip side of that, though, it is possible for Ice Palace to not be completable logically. With the Ice Palace bomb jump, you can get around the Samaria lock, but
yeah, for sure. It's the logic of that is if there's a key on Cold Stare, it is Samaria locked, correct?
If there is a key on Cold Stare, it is Samaria locked, yes. Since logically, in order to beat it without Samaria, you do need to enter that last locked door on the room right before you drop down and hit the crystal switch. Ice Palace bomb jump can bypass that by hitting the switch beforehand and coming down there with it already in the right state. the vanilla routing, you have to go down, do another loop back around, and that's how you naturally go through the iced tea room. Come back around, push the block down, switch, ready to go. Bomb jump coming up here.
John doing a very nice job on those skeleton bomb guys. Sets up for that bomb jump. Looks like they have it.
That was a quick setup. Very well done.
And gets that heart. And we'll make his way on down.
Yeah, another factor that goes into this this Ice Palace play, though, which would lead me to believe that you go here regardless of what items you have. Maybe even decide to fake flipper to it, is the fact that it's our second red crystal, our second 5/6, which means that Pyramid Fairy is going to be available after this is done. So that's 2 more checks for free. Now that this is in logic, they could be items we're looking for. Just a pretty good play.
I mean, you got only 2 choices really: Ice Palace or Swamp, or Ice Palace or Swamp Palace. So it's kind of either one's not wrong.
This is on its way to becoming Jet Seed. All we need is to find that Samaria and go to Misery Mire, and it's
absolutely nice.
And we're not even an hour in yet, and John is on his fifth crystal, with the 6th soon to follow in Swamp Palace. And again, with that Samaria being our basically is that our only go mode item? Yeah. Other than, the potential of a fire-locked Ganis Tower Big Key. There's 6 items in Swamp Palace. That's a very nice dungeon to go down if you're on a quick seed, hoping for that one last progression item. Swamp Palace is not a bad dungeon to have to do.
Yeah, the only bad thing is if Samaria Samaria can't even be inside Turtle Rock, so I mean, at this point, you don't even have to think about it because you need Samaria just to be able to go anywhere inside of TR anyway.
Yeah, Samaria is it's not the worst go mode item. I'll say that. It can be bad. It can be very bad, but it's with a pendant TR, it's not the worst. With pendant TR, you kind of like to see Samaria be your go mode, because if your go mode is anything else, then that you're staring down the barrel of a TR tip.
Yeah, I mean, if Samaria is on Moth, and then with Fire Rod on TR Laser Bridge, well, no, because you can't even get to it.
Yeah, in order for that the back of Skullwoods to come into play, we do have to see Fire Rod. And since Fartsplosion made that dip earlier, we know, John doesn't know, but we know that the back of Skullwoods is out of play until we find the Fire Rod. And that's both Skullwoods items. Very nice kill on Cold Stare there. Gets away a little bit at the end, but you take that every time.
Yeah, as long as you get that first couple of hits in, makes it so much easier to deal with.
It can be scary when you're first starting out, practicing strats like that, because Cold Stare does a lot of damage on contact. A lot of the time you prefer to take damage from the ice block falling down because it does less damage to you than making contact with Cold Stare, and you kind of have to get right up in his grill to get that quick kill like that. But very well done by John.
Neither runners have done waterfall or anything like that, correct? Just the hobo check.
I sort of assumed that John had done the waterfall fairy, but I can't vouch for that. May have seen that sword on hobo, decided they got enough out of logic flippers checks and decided to vamoose.
So I would imagine I would have liked to have seen John go and check Bombos right here. I mean, the chances of you coming back, either do it now or after.
Yeah, I would say if we don't find Samara in Swamp Palace, you just quick pop over to Bombos. It's an extra 30 seconds or so, if that.
And then go do
Pyramid Fairy.
Yeah.
You don't really say it's if you don't do it right after Swamp Palace here, you're basically saying I'm taking the gamble that there's nothing I need over there.
And Fart is heading into Helmasaur. The king of the Helmasaurs, as we break up his little crown right there.
Helmasaurus Rex, if you're a fan of Latin.
I do enjoy a good Helmasaurus Rex.
Both of these runners showing off that item dash with the hammer, going straight through those skulls. I saw Fartsplosion do it earlier to collect those 3 hearts before heading towards the boss of Palace of Darkness there. John just did it in Swamp Palace. Stylish moves.
Is going to save and quit. And I imagine turn that flute in, head over to the Mire area. See what that pendant is, or what the medallion is needed.
Yeah, and that play, that's another thing where it's like you make the safe play. It's like, okay, well, I have Mire access. I don't have Samaria, so I can't clear Mire. But, you know, it's information, and there's 2 free checks. 3 if you count in Checkerboard Cave. And it's... And this seed it's the seed you always hope for, the one that's going to be like, oh, hey, you're doing the safe play here, have progression.
Yeah, sometimes seeds just fall right into your lap, and you just, like, every single decision you make is pure gold.
And then sometimes you end up with the seeds, you end up with those seeds when you're like, okay, this is the time I'm going to make the big brain play. I'm going to go and check Tile Room and Ganon's Tower first. I can always skip it, but this is going to be the time. And it's like, nope, it was on the torch. Well, shit. You know?
That happens quite a bit. Where you're like, the right play is the absolute wrong play. And then when you make that crazy play and it works out, or doesn't work out, you're like, well, I probably should not have done that. Mistakes were in fact made.
Yeah, you do feel like a fool, but sometimes that's what you have to do. But yeah, in this case, John is just rewarded for playing it really safe. Hey, you know, just do what you need to do, and the items, if they fall into your lap, that's great.
Interesting note: it is Quake on Misery Mire, and John can go in, but Fart cannot.
Where did we see that Quake again? That was
Kingston? No? Yeah.
I remember it coming up. I just don't remember when. I sort of assumed that Fart would have done it right afterwards.
Fart missing his mirror? Missing his mirror.
No. Fart does have Quake. It was in Brewery, and I saw him pick it up. I think our tracker must have missed it. I do recall it being in Brewery. I think that's where it was.
Yeah,
we'll probably just wait to confirm until the next time he presses the start button. But
I do remember that now. Yep, it's there. Had me thinking there for a second, like I thought they got it, but and John is going to pick up their if they go check Hobo. Hopefully they check Hobo first and don't just go into okay, we're going to go check Ice Palace first.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. It's
given bad, but I understand.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Is like we've been saying, this seed has been it's been a funnel. You know, you get those sort of soft progression items early on, and then they sort of nudge you in certain directions, like, oh, okay, here, go desert first, and it doesn't give you anything, but hey, you know, on your way there, you find some, you know, find the shovel, leads you to the lamp, and says, hey, mountains and logic, you got the mirror, hair is a crystal, you go up there, and the instant you get to the mountain, oh, here's your hammer. It just sort of ends up funneling you towards this thing, and at this stage in the seed, you're like, okay, let's just knock out dungeons. Hope it keeps coming up sevens, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Might as well. I mean, if you can clear it, go ahead and clear it. There's not what you wanted to see at all. John looks like they were looking for the left side swamp or diver down approach, catching themselves and going on over. Yeah, that fire rod, you're just kind of hoping you don't see until later, and you're hoping that Turtle Rock is ether locked. That's also locked behind GT, and you don't have to ever worry about it. Fart making good play on those guys as well. And Fart looks like they will also set up for that Ice Palace bomb jump.
And their setup is not as clean as John's was. John made it look easy, but it is not trivial. I'll say that much. I don't think anybody who's ever attempted it could ever claim it to be trivial.
I think he does a good job on that one. And Fart doing a good job on that bomb jump. And John's going to find a big heart. And a piece of heart. The left side not making any help for our runners.
Yeah, it was a blink and you miss it moment, but Fartsplosion just duped a heart with the hook shot. Sometimes when you grab a heart with the hook shot, you get 2 hearts instead. It's not always worth switching to the hook shot just to pick up a heart, but if you know about it, you can sometimes take advantage of it in a dangerous situation. It's not guaranteed. There's no like setup for it, but it just is a thing that sometimes happens, and it's worth knowing about.
And John is skipping Bombos tablet at the moment and going to do Pyramid Fairy.
Which is a very good idea, unless it is the Cane of Samaria.
Yep. Worth taking that gamble, but I mean, when you're that close, the chances of you getting back there aren't great.
Yeah, that's the convenient time to do it. Another way to look at it, though, which would be, okay, if you go to do Bombos, you're saying, okay, I'm doing all 3. And if you're like, okay, if I only have to do one, which would I rather do? You do the Pyramid Fairy. John wants this Jet Seed really badly, so I'm gonna skip Bombos there.
So go ahead and pick up that.
Maybe hesitating for a bit, trying to think, God, do I really want that red mail? I have to walk all the way around to get back in that hole. But no, yeah, you grab it.
Cool little visual glitch on that pyramid right there. If you have a friend that's never played the game before, you could tell them it's for something really cool.
Yeah, John thinks about checking what the Pyramid Fairy has, but realizes his bottles are full of blue potion already.
Yeah, definitely not worth wasting a blue to find out if it's a blue.
It is kind of nice to have blue on that Pyramid Fairy, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, you know, whatever happens on Ganon's Tower happens. If I use all my safeties, who cares? I just pop down and grab a blue potion or 2 before getting the Ganon fight.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of relief seeing that. And John checking Catfish.
Oh yeah, chat pointing out that Cold Stare did have that small key, meaning that the game requires Samaria to be obtained before Ice Palace can be completed. With that being one of our 5/6 crystals, Pyramid Fairy couldn't contain Samaria, so that would be a reason to have gone for Bombos instead.
Dodging the yellow spikes. John not finding anything. We will see the Zora check. And red item, but not the right item.
Yeah, learning key logic is a it's a very important thing if you really want to up your randomizer race game, and it's one of those things that. So, for example, take Ice Palace. Okay, you know it's fairly common knowledge that if you see a key on the boss of Ice Palace, that it is Samaria locked. If you're a more casual runner, though, and you know, say you're not racing, but you want to know if you can do Ice Palace or not, there are some signs you can look for along the way, and it sort of relies on you taking your key count into consideration with all of your actions. Pod is much the same way, where different things mean certain things depending on how many keys you have, where you find them. It's a deeper subject than you might think.
That'd be a nice one for the Go Mode podcast to kind of go over the different key logics.
I know I don't know my pod key logic nearly as well as I'd like to. Every time I go through pod, it's like I could know so much more about what I'm doing right now if I knew my key logic.
Yeah, for sure. And John is checking Dark Death Mountain.
Reasonable, given that we have the hook shot.
The question is, if you can get into Turtle Rock, do you go ahead and just dip it right now?
Not unless I find Samaria, in which case I go to Misery Mire instead. If we were waiting on Fire Rod, say our position was reversed here though, and say we had Samaria, but we're looking for Fire Rod for Go Mode, that would be a situation where I would very heavily consider it. If I have the medallion and I can get in there, I go ahead and look in there. Worst case scenario, you find a small key in that first chest, and you have to consider whether or not you want to dip further. Yeah. But just checking that first chest isn't a huge amount of time loss for the chance of potentially finding the item you're looking for.
Okay. You could just hover it. Say skip it. I'm going to hover all of TR.
We find the powder, which, while being a relatively decent safety, also puts Magic Bat in logic for us here.
Yep.
We haven't seen Smith Chain because they picked up the mitts in Hype Cave. So I believe the thing we're probably going to be seeing here is we're going to see Spike Cave and then probably Smith Chain. With that Magic Bat find, that's going to be really attractive now, especially with Mirror.
It's a nice double hit on those puffs. One puff going down, but it's got to be careful.
Yeah, hammer Cold Stare
that's
is painful. Yeah, no fairy safety. And a red potion in hand. You hate to see that.
Yeah, you gotta.
And that's exactly sort of what I was talking about. Even with red mail, Cold Stare can do a lot more damage than you expect.
And nothing is on Dark Death Mountain. Spike Cave coming up empty. Yeah, that's super unfortunate. If you got a red potion, you do not want to die on Cold Stare. I'll go buy more. But a death right there is
1,500 rupees. You don't care. You don't care about wasting potions. You have flute. It's at worst, 10 to 20 seconds to go and buy another potion. Is it 10 to 20 seconds to get back to Cold Stare? Don't think so.
No.
No, I will say it's an easy trap to fall into. If only I'm good if I am a god gamer, that's what everybody's thinking in that moment. I can save the 20 seconds of needing to buy a potion by being a god gamer in this moment. And everybody, yeah, and you want to have that confidence, right?
Yeah.
And it's
You're down to
painful.
one heart, 2 hearts. Just use the potion. You can get more. Don't do it. Because you got to think, if you don't find silvers, you're gonna want to go get a full array of potions before you head in, just to make sure that you have enough magic for that silverless fight. So just bite the bullet, do it. Use that red.
Though I will say, some people would argue that it feels better to get those clutch moments than it does to, you know, win a race. I think that some people would be me sometimes. I don't know. I like going for it. I know it's not going to win me races, but that one time when it pays off, you feel so good. You do it once and then you end up chasing that high for the rest of your life.
Yep. And everybody falls into that one. I can do this. I could do this. And like, I really shouldn't have done that. King's Tune is nothing but a red rupee, as we saw earlier. We threw the...
yeah, dumping the bee to grab the fairy. Oh, no, because he hasn't found the powder in Hookshot Cave yet. Oh, man, so he's going all the way around to dive down.
That's not too bad, at least.
Yeah. I mean, this is what you do if you've died to Cold Stare once. Ice Palaces, without Samaria especially, Ice Palace is the single worst dungeon to die to the boss of. Bar none.
Yeah, if you don't have Icebreaker, that run back is super long. You're talking about what, a good maybe 4 to 5 minutes, possibly.
Yeah, I once had a Samarialess Ice Palace in an Ambrosia seed, because Ambrosia, in her eternal cruelty, tricked me into looking for boots there. Ended up being on Cold Stare, which I never got because I was diving so early in the game that I died to Cold Stare the first time, and then I just fell into that tilt loop, and so that's one of the only runs I've ever forfeit before an hour and a half. Just like, no, it's over now. It's over now.
And we got a piece of heart inside hammer pegs. And as we start the quick chain.
Yeah, this is it's really worth noting, though, that the fact that John had the Tempered Sword going into this fight makes a huge difference. And it's not ordinarily such a huge difference, because a lot of the time when you're in Ice Palace, you have Fire Rod, which you can rely on a little bit. But with just the Master Sword and Hammer, it is a much different fight than even if you just have the Tempered Sword.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of the spin slashes over the hammer.
Yeah, hammer's faster, but at this point, you do it safe, you know.
Yeah. With the sword slash, you get a couple puffs at the same time too, and gets him in the corner and gets that Cold Stare fight down.
Also worth noting, you know, maybe I should practice my hammer Cold Stare, you know.
So let's hope that Fart decides to go check Hobo from here. And John
we didn't see Fartsplosion go up towards the waterfall, or did we? No, because they did not route the as they didn't route the catfish check in as I postulated they might. So yeah, they're gonna be picking up that sword now and be like, dang it.
Yeah, I could have had that for this.
I don't really see the world in which they would have been like, oh, you know, maybe I should go check Hobo before going into Ice Palace, but...
Yeah, those are one of those I coulda, shoulda, woulda moments. Like, it's all right.
About the only thing worse to see than the sword is going to be the, it would be the cane.
And John finding absolutely nothing on the Smith Chain and is going to check that Bombos tablet. Now, if Bombos is here, they're going to be like, man, I could have had that. That might put into their mind a little bit that they're behind.
Yeah,
of course we know
they're not right now. But if it is here, Fartsplosion can make up some time by checking it right away. It's 50 rupees, which is not as much as the Cane of Samaria is worth to these runners at this point.
So, I gotta think they're gonna go into Skull Woods, and with that Fire Rod, they're gonna be able to actually clear it, which means that Fire Rod was in fact needed.
Yeah, John did not have the information that the items were in the back of Skull Woods, notably. Only Fartsplosion knows that right now. Because John skipped Skull Woods entirely earlier on.
Now, with them finding that tempered sword and stuff late, they may think, well, you know what, I'm not even going to bother with left side swamp and forego, which would be the correct answer, but that may be hard to do.
I'm not entirely sure about that, because since you're only one item from Go mode, I'm not sure at this point you feel behind enough just from that tempered sword that you'd want to skip it entirely. Maybe you'd skip it on the way down and do it later, but it's kind of hard with just one item from Go mode, potentially, in their mind, since they could still need the Fire Rod, to decide, okay, I'm just going to walk away from Swamp after not checking left side.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, I got to think that Samaria is on the back of Skull Woods. The biggest thing for Fart is that it's not. That would be their best hope. I don't know if Eastern Palace if they found all 4 items or all 3 items in Eastern Palace or not.
I don't think did they touch Eastern Palace? I kind of don't think either of them did. John went to the Hospitalist Closet, found the sword.
Yeah, because they didn't check it then, and Fart didn't check it either. So that's the hope for Fart to get into this, is that he goes and checks Eastern Palace, and it's there, while John checks Skull Woods.
Eastern Palace checks have been in Logic for a long time. We had Bow at the beginning of the game, and Shovel was free and led directly to the lamp, which is all you need to full clear that dungeon.
And we'll see here as John makes his way to the back. Could be gross and be vanilla Samaria.
That's true. Samaria in Misery Mire. Who'd have thunk it?
And Fart looks like he is just going to go ahead and do left side diver down.
I think that was the Cane of Samaria.
Unlucky.
Right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our red cane.
Gonna head right on over to Misery Mire.
And with a mirror portal that looks suspiciously like a ped check, but is not.
Ooh. Fart getting pushed out of.
Yeah, this is very good news for John. I dare say that other than that little bit of the Samaria hunt at the end, this has been a very, very fast seed.
It's been clean, yeah, for sure. Like, John's had a really good run. The execution was really nice. And everything just coming up the way it needs to. Unfortunately for Fart, he's not going to find anything on that left side swamp, and he's going to be pretty behind.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that a little bit of poorer execution. That the death in Ice Palace is going to cost any of the time that would have been gained from you know, already knowing that the 2 items are in the back of Skullwoods and going and checking that right away.
Yeah.
Make up a little bit of time in the hunt afterwards by maybe checking it immediately after seeing the fire rod, but
I guess the worst thing for them is if they decide to gamble, because fire rod was big key or big chest, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, as if they decide, you know what, I'm just gonna abandon this last check, call it good, and gamble a little bit and have that one come back and bite hard.
Yeah, though after dying to Cold Stare and Ice Palace, I'd feel like with Swamp Palace in particular, you know, you find the big key, I'd almost be more likely to decide, okay, I'm going to turn around and open that big chest before fighting the boss than I am to decide to leave it entirely.
Yeah, for sure. Especially as if you can get down those diver downs pretty easy, then the run back isn't too hard. It's pretty quick. So Fart, with doing left side swamp first, is going to save about 45 seconds on having to come back in to do it.
As, John just found the big key in Meyer too, so that's Meyer all ready to finish.
Yeah, I don't see any way that they, outside of calamity happening, that Fart gets back into this one, unfortunately.
Different GT routing could end up with Fartsplosion finding silvers. Though with Tempered Sword, that's going to make a lot less of a difference.
And Fart missing that jump out of the water. Sets back up. Much better. There he goes. John heading back, and with a cape, Viddy shouldn't be too much of a problem, especially with half magic. Throw the cape on, slash till your heart's content. The magic really doesn't go down. So
I've always liked the cape and then Pegasus dash through.
I do like that one as well.
I'm not sure it's necessarily faster with the Tempered Sword. I think it's faster with the Golden Sword, but
oh yeah.
I still do it with the Tempered Sword. With the Master Sword, it's kind of a waste of time, but
and Fart heading on in. John going with the cape and slash. And this should be quick work of Viddy. Eight arrows into the eyeball and down goes.
yeah, notably the boss with the highest HP count outside of Ganon. Only boss that is vulnerable to silver arrows that doesn't get killed by a single one. Both runners holding up a crystal in tandem.
Going to mirror and immediately.
And that is our last crystal, which means that we've got a little game to play here.
That is the 7th crystal. So,
ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves. We are about to enter Ganon's Tower, a deadly dungeon full of traps, things you need the Cane of Samaria for sometimes, and things you need the Fire Rod for sometimes. There are 22 checks. One of them is the big key. Which one will it be? Get your guesses in now, ladies and gentlemen.
People take them on numbers.
Dang it, somebody already picked 6. I just picked a number.
You're good. 4 is good.
Meanwhile, Fartsplosion deciding to check Bombos immediately, which is the play that we were theorizing maybe could have been good, but
It's
just going to give them
trade that
1,583 rupees, which is, you know, maybe that's their lucky number.
You know, it saves some time, but we already know that's going to be empty. Though I can only imagine the only thing they're going to do is go to Pyramid Fairy, which they will again be sad.
Yeah, and after that, it's just going to be a matter of, okay, do I go up Dark Death Mountain? Do I make the play to do Smith Chain without powder? So, you know, not being able to route in that Magic Bat. Or well, maybe I go back of Skull Woods, having found that Fire Rod.
They're now remembering the... Is that faster? Or is it better off jumping back in your portal and running out?
I'd have to time the time it takes to fly, but it's a couple screen transitions, which are a little bit slow. It's more screen transitions than it is from Link's house,
Yeah.
but you do have to take the time to fly. If your menuing is good, it might be pretty equitable. We gotta stop that game before people start cheating.
Lumaga with the stop, and in the first one, and they are going to go full right.
Yeah, that's something a lot of runners will do, having found a small key in this area. Another popular choice is Dark Magician routing, which is going full left through the Stalfos room with 4 chests. If you haven't found it there, then you go full right, because at that point you're guaranteed to have a small key in reserve to be able to guarantee yourself access to this room that's coming up in a bit that also has 4 chests. It's a good way to get a lot of check density in Ganon's Tower done guaranteed, which is one of its major advantages.
I personally like Hope left. Big key in 5. Yep.
And crucially, the mushroom, which could be our silver arrows that we'll never see. But yes, indeed, that was check number 5.
Which nobody guessed 5. Yeah, nobody guessed 5. So you and Keg in the Closet had 4 and 6. Oh, yeah.
I thought he used Price is Right rules.
You go over, who wins that? Make short work of our mimics.
And Fartsplosion decides to clean up the rest of the Flippers checks. An unfortunate but sensible decision. That's sort of where Fartsplosion is sitting at right now. Just a series of decisions that will be either fortunate or sensible, you know?
Yeah.
That's what happens in a fast seed like this. If you end up looking for one item and you don't find it as a matter of course like you found everything else, and it's just like, okay, well, roll the dice on this spot, roll the dice on this spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough because they're not going to want to go back to Skull Woods. It's a kind of a gross check to get back to.
Yeah, the only the bright spot here is that, well, you know, at least it can't be a ped seed because your go mode locks Turtle Rock out from you.
And they are going to go check Dark Death Mountain, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, with Hookshot Cave up here, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, they are.
They also do have Ether Tablet, which, I mean, they're not going to check it because they could read it earlier, but it's worth noting that, say they hadn't had the book, or something. I don't know. Maybe Fartsplosion hadn't found a single sword or something. I don't know. Maybe this point kind of fell flat. But point is, John had the Master Sword to actually check that check earlier, and Fartsplosion could only read it.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunate. We know where the Samaria Rod is, and it's going to be tough to get back there. Or, yeah, Fart's going to be tough to get back there. It's super unfortunate. As you're talking.
Might decide, since the powder sort of leads back to Kakariko Village of Outcasts anyway.
Yeah.
It's really sort of a matter of just, so when do you decide to go up Dark Death Mountain and check Hookshot Cave? Because unless you check it before that, that's sort of going to be your second to last check. It's just down to whether or not you decide to do Smith Chain first before going back into Skull Woods.
Gets his first shield.
John, not being bold, waits for the jingle. And that's the torch puzzle where you like to have the fire rod. It's a little bit putsy if you want to do it with just the lamp.
Yeah, that's definitely not fun. Doable, but not fun. You gotta...
Yeah, I used to only do it with the lamp. I just feel like, okay, I know which way it goes, so I'm just gonna light them counterclockwise and face tank the spark as it comes and hits me on my way up the left side.
Been knocked off plenty of times by that stupid spark.
Now, I remember early on when I was first playing Rando, I ended up running out of magic, and I had to leave Ganon's Tower to go get some more because I even used up the full magic refill downstairs. I felt a fool.
Gian is check Spike Cave.
Interesting to note at this point, this is the point where Fartsplosion is at right now, where had Hera Basement not been required and had the runners decided to skip it earlier, this would be the point where you'd go back and check it.
Yeah.
So much like the reason that they're doing Spike Cave here is you don't want to have to come back to find it here. It doesn't really save you enough time to gamble that it's not there for it to be worth it.
I'm gonna check that for 50 validation points.
So we're gonna want to pay attention as John approaches the final phase of the Ganon fight to find out where those silvers were. It's always the fun when you decide to, oh, well, shoot, I didn't find those silver arrows. Well, let's find out where they were. Very rarely do you want to go and grab them. Usually you only consider it if you have Master Sword. But even then, it really depends on where they are.
Fartsplosion is looking like they're going into head into go.
And they're just taking the warp. This is the play that I would say makes more sense too. With that powder,
yeah,
Smith chain plus hammer pegs. That's just 4 checks, and you can do them pretty quickly with mirror and flute. Skullwoods would be a very hard read at this point.
Yeah, that would not be fun.
Really, the only truly bad play that was made was trusting yourself a little bit too much in Ice Palace and not drinking that red potion. Other than that, none of the decisions made by either of these runners have been poor.
No, I mean,
definitely say
that rando. I mean, sometimes you just get rando. Having a fire rod or having to get fire rod to get the Samaria into Skullwoods fire locked back is terrible. Especially when it's a pendant.
I mean, I can't even feel like it's that bad, just because I know we've seen a worse Samaria hunt.
Oh yeah, yeah. John moving into phase 2. Gets the fortuitous upper right corner to get those double slashes in, or those spin slashes in, and is going to push into phase 3.
Yeah, now with 5 hearts and, well, 3 hearts now, and a red mail. I don't recall if any of Ganon's attacks do 3 hearts with red mail. I don't think they do.
I don't know what a hug is. Hug is 2?
That's one of the pieces of knowledge that I'm a little bit lacking in, but...
Because he does 8 on green, 4 on blue.
Yeah, so it would be 2. Is that just halves each time?
And then fire bats are 1 or 2.
And at 3 hearts and red mail, that is one of the situations where you really would like to know for sure how much those are. I wasn't paying attention to say where he said they were. Light World, was it? I don't know.
Silvers in GT says,
oh,
Sultana Search.
I made up Light World. I completely pulled that out of my bum.
So if Fart goes right side, or does down goes John? But
I'm gonna guess we picked up we picked up a fairy in GT. Otherwise, I don't think he would have been so cavalier with just 1 heart remaining. That, and you know, they're pretty easy fairies to pick up if you have got powder in the net. With those 4 bottles, it was a pretty foregone conclusion that some of them would have fairies.
The only thing Fart would have been able to get right there is if he ran out of potions on John doing the Ganon fight, and would have had to go get more and ran out of money, which has happened. And John got to be a little careful here. He's taking a lot more damage than he probably should. Have a little bit of trouble with that silver fight. Yeah,
the silverless fight, I will say, isn't hard, but it's big. I mean, it's tough. It's definitely a lot harder than with silvers. But its biggest danger is not how difficult it is to complete, but in how many more opportunities it gives you for a fall. That's the biggest danger it poses.
It's learning the rhythm of this fight that's the biggest deal, and Fart's going to guess wrong and go into.
This is a play I think that makes sense, having died to Cold Stare earlier. At this point, you die to Cold Stare, you have to go down Ice Palace without Samaria again. You're like, okay, one of the only ways I can win is if I go the place that my opponent is going to least expect it to be. And that's exactly why I would expect we're seeing Fartsplosion go into Mire here.
And down goes Ganon. Good job for Johns. Get some GGs in the chat. And a little bridge cross. We'll get official race time GG. Looking about 142. Nope, 141.48.
Not as jetty as it was looking like. That Cane of Samaria did give us the runaround a little bit, but GG's all around for John. And mentored by the inimitable Trinexx, who we did not get to see in this run, thankfully.
Yeah, it was nice that you didn't have to dip green pendant TR. Normally, that's where's all your progression at green pendant TR. You already knew. With it being Samaria, no big deal.
I think we're going to see if we can get an interview in here.
It looks like Fart is going to go ahead and forfeit this, which I don't blame him.
Yeah, when you make that Mire play, like I was saying, you make the Mire play thinking there's no way your opponent wins unless you do that. I think we're being joined by a host of people here.
Congratulations, John. GG. Well played.
Thank you. Fight, so I was just trying to take it as slow and safe as possible.
Yeah, that seems very kind to you, in particular.
Looks like Fart is continuing on. I believe it is. Maybe having a little bit of technical difficulties with their stream, possibly.
We could also blame Jere.
Sure.
Yeah, blame Jere.
But question of the day: how about that Samaria location?
You know, I felt good about it because I could have last locationed it worse. I was really worried it was going to be somewhere even dumber, like it was going to be in Eastern Palace, which I had walked by once. You know, we never went into Eastern, but you know, the Trinexx was just saying, "Hey, do what." It's an arbitrary decision basically from here on out. So just pick one and go to it. And I got lucky in the one I picked. It was definitely the seed won me the seed. It was not a straight execution linear seed at all.
Yeah,
sure. If you can see on Fartsplosion in the stream. Oh, there we go. Well, nope, there we go. It's back to the top half again.
Okay. We're good.
Anyway, as the point is, Fartsplosion is in Misery Mire right now, which seems like a kind of an odd choice, given that
I considered looking there.
Right. And I was postulating right as you were finishing off Ganon that the reason is they took a very unfortunate death to Cold Stare. Since at the time they only had the Master Sword, so they didn't have the easier Tempered Sword fight. So, and I was saying this is a decision that I think makes sense having had that happen.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very smart decision. You think you're behind, hope it's where you need it to be, and hope that your opponent went around last locationing it.
Yeah, you look for it in the last place John's gonna look.
And Fart being told that he needs to go do the chest above cutscene chest, so because of key logic, check there first.
Yeah, we were talking about key logic earlier. That's another one, Misery Mire key logic. Any of those dungeons that have a lot of keys, study your key logic.
Yeah, I didn't have to do that because I had Trinexx next to me. Next week I got to worry about my key logic.
Yeah,
speaking of key logic, we did notice you go up and check the Pyramid Fairy for the Cane of Samaria, even after seeing a small key on Cold Stare.
Oh, I didn't actually pay attention to that. I think I just turned away. I didn't actually notice that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, chat noticed it. So,
I don't even know what that implies.
So a small key on Cold Stare means that the logic
Samaria.
requires the Cane of Samaria to complete the dungeon, because you would ordinarily need that small key to flip the switch in the basement.
Oh, cool. Good to know. Well, maybe I'll get to use that next week.
Yeah, it's something I've caught before, but I actually just didn't even notice the key drop. I just didn't see the item.
Yep, that happens too.
But yeah, you really took a big advantage over Fart when you went and got both Master Sword and Tempered.
Yeah, Fartsplosion didn't find the first sword upgrade until they were on their way to Pod. They mirrored it over. It saved some time on that check, but had to make do with Fighter Sword until then, because they also decided to forego the Flippers checks out of sequence.
Yeah, I'm really liking the balance of the routing I'm doing here with Trinexx. We complement each other perfectly, because I'm always wanting to just drag my feet and check pick up every piece of candy I can. You see it with me picking up parts that I don't need to pick up even. And he's really good at just pushing me ahead, saying, go, 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 prodding me in the back, you know?
Yeah, that's the one thing, especially newer runners. I know I do that sometimes too. Like, I'm just going to have to keep checking. I'm going to have to keep checking instead of saying, you know what? It's going to be where somewhere down the road, just keep going. It gets a little bit iffy on that, you know?
Yeah, especially when you abandon something like we found the flute. I believe it was in Pod. So as soon as we saw that, we said, okay, well, there's no way we're mirroring over back to. We can always just fly back to Eastern Palace. That's the sort of thing that Trinexx has taught me.
Yeah, I think we were discussing. I think that the worst thing that could have happened to us is probably like Mitts in King's Tomb, or probably in Bombo's Tablet. Because those are open pretty early. That just sort of like, it'd be better to route them in later. But any one of those things could probably hurt us at any time. So,
those bits felt so good to pick up.
Unfortunately, Fart is going to go check Eastern Palace
Again, it's the trap of you gotta make. I mean, right now he already knows that he doesn't have anything to prove here, but
guys, Fart needs your energy.
It is worth noting here that Fart did dip into Skull Woods earlier upon entry to the Dark World. They discovered that both of the items are in back. they actually have that knowledge that both of the items in Swamp Palace, or sorry, Skull Woods, are locked behind that fire rod. Which you guys didn't know at the time. Chat was saying like, oh, you know, I'd think you go with that fire rod, yeah, you'd go straight to the fire rod checks. But
I was definitely considering it. It was one of the top options for a long time. About every time we were back to that 3, it was do we go Skullwoods now or do we keep putting it off? One time I just didn't go in because I forgot to mark fire rod on my tracker. There were so many dense areas of checks that every now and then one just slipped.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that the decisions that you did make were, I mean, they made perfect sense. You know, you haven't been up to Death Mountain again since you got the mitts. You don't have to do Turtle Rock, so you might not have another chance to go up there.
Oh wow, that's my lowest collection rate. That's a collection rate PB and a time.
Wow.
Yeah, and a time PB.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
your menu time was also very nice. Sub-4-minute menu time. That's one thing people don't realize is that menu time really impacts those races too.
Now I gotta bring up Fart and see how he's doing now.
He is in the middle of checking big chest.
Picking up
Do you
all
guys-
those red rupees you guys didn't get.
Do y'all want a hand on finishing commentating the race? Is joke. All right, well, let's see. Did you guys have more questions? I had a little sound off I gotta say towards my opponent next week, who I know is listening.
And who do you got next week?
It's none other than the manager of this restream himself, Jere Dudecia. I just wanted to let him know that you had a week off last week, and while you were having your gratuitous beach episode, I was training in the hyperbolic time chamber, getting better and better and better. I want you to know I am the chain chomp of Rando, and if you take me lightly, I am going to bite you.
Oh, nice. A little bit of smack talk.
Hey man, if you get 140s every time.
Yeah, I love you, Dudecia. I look forward to our 3 races, or 2 to 3 races next week. All right, I just want to take some time to thank our restreamer, Jere Dudecia, and our 2 commentators, Grimlegend and Ezmar, and our tracker, Lumaga.
Appreciate it. I definitely appreciate you guys letting us restream you, commentating the race, and it does look like Fartsplosion is going to make the correct decision this time and make their way back to Skull Woods. And hopefully they check the bridge chest first.
Yeah, I would. I mean, maybe at this point with all the other decisions,
Well, with
maybe
the
you know,
mirage,
let's just go the boss. You know, it's probably on Mothula. The evil dragon always has the treasure, right?
that is true.
All right, well, unless you guys have another question for me or Trinexx, I think we'll bow out and watch the rest of the race with y'all.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having us, or appreciate you listening and giving us an interview and everything. Appreciate it.
Just want to give a quick shout out to John. You know, got to go on to the next round with all mentorists, and hopefully we'll take something away from it.
Yeah, hopefully have some Ganon practice before then.
Yes.
GG, everybody.
Have a good night.
Yeah, speaking of Ganon
Making-
practice, it could be, you could consider, you know, going with the forfeit after, you know, finding that Samaria, because, you know, a matter of principle, you want to finish that hunt. You want to know what you should have done.
Yeah.
But I would consider it foolish to do so, since you're sort of staring down the barrel of a silverless Ganon fight, which is never a bad thing to practice. You know?
It's always good to get it in, practice it. I mean, the more chances you have to practice something like that, the better.
And it's nice to be able to practice it sort of in the context of a full run rather than just, you know, opening up a practice ROM or something and just dropping down and drilling it, because it's never quite the same.
It always changes too, and falling down.
Having already been here, though, he can just sort of go straight back.
Yep, just run to the back. Makes quick work of that dark magic room. I would have just powdered the next room to get that anti-fairy. Save that magic for later.
Yeah, with the bug catching net, you can always stick another fairy in there, I guess.
Drops down.
With red mail and 14 hearts, you know, really all the safeties sort of help you do in that situation is, you know, you take damage boosts here and there. You can afford to be a little careless. But above all, the golden rule is always don't get hit.
That is very true. If you don't get hit, you can never die.
Also, you know, John's inventory over on the right side, you know, almost a full arsenal of bees.
I'm a fan of the bees.
I'm really disappointed that you know, given that you can use the bug catching net to fight Aghanim, for some reason the bees don't do anything during the fight with Ganon, you know?
Yeah,
that's disappointing.
Let them sit there and do their worst of nothing.
You know, maybe even distract him, you know? Like, oh, it interrupts his attack cycle or something. You know, that could have been interesting. Would have fit in nicely with all of the Easter eggs they put in later games, you know, like Twilight Princess and the fishing rod.
That would be funny. Sit there and have extra commentary where he yells at you.
It would definitely be on brand for the game. I dare say that those kills on those little mini eyeballs were even faster than John's.
It was pretty quick for sure. 8 arrows in, and he lost 7 arrows. And we can head on up and then see which side he decides to go on. Looting away. So that is interesting, though. With him having all those bees, that means he didn't have any other potions outside of that blue one.
Yeah, I mean, and that's with silvers that would be, you know, no big deal if you've got red mail and 14 hearts, but silverless, that's you had just that fairy, and he used it, and it got pretty close to the end.
Yeah. Electing to not grab that fairy.
Yeah, again, going back to the whole, you know, practicing the end of the game bit, because, you know, at this point, you do the end of the game, and it's kind of always the same. And every runner kind of gets used to that. And it can be easy to sort of feel like, you know, it's not really worth the time to practice it. I know how it's going to go. But I feel like a seed like this is kind of the perfect opportunity to practice it. You know, it wasn't a very taxing seed. You know, not a lot of hunts. Sometimes you can have to hunt a while for several items. But with having a lot of them presented to you, that's sort of a really good opportunity to, like, okay, you know what? Let's finish this out, practice the end of the game, make sure I can at least do that clean. You know, because maybe if John had made some mistakes, Fart could have the edge here, and you want to be able to execute in those situations.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, those are one of the things you want to do, finish out that seed in that race mentality setting.
Yeah, we've seen a number of races, even in this tournament, get decided by late game spaghetti.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen a bunch where people have been in Ganon well before others and gotten sniped at the end.
Yeah, if I recall, I commentated your match against Thornetto, where it all came down to that equipment difference at the very end.
Yeah, that was Master Sword Silverless Ganon versus Butter Sword Silver is terrible. And missing that torch glitch.
Yeah, that was the kicker on that one. If you're doing Master Sword Silverless, I mean, you missed that torch glitch, and all of a sudden every single one of those lights counts.
Yep. I mean,
we see Fartsplosion going and doing right side, which is fortuitous for him.
Yep, because he's going to be forced to do it Silverless, get that practice. See if he remembers to go get the key.
The mushroom.
Okay. But that match came down to 2 plays. You know, missing the torch glitch and not having that potion to fake pot, fake bow, I guess you'd say, to unlock the camera to get the tempered sword. It's little things like that. That's why it's great to practice. You know.
Yeah, you have these little things, and they don't, on average, save a whole lot of time. But you know, every once in a while, it's exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed that he is finishing this out, because you definitely could have gone the way of the nope, I'm done. I don't know where Samara is at. I don't want to do this.
Especially given that, you know, it was in the middle of a fruitless Smire dip, went into Eastern afterwards, and only then, after finishing Smith Chain as well, did he head over into Skullwoods and finally find that cane. But you know, this is let that be a lesson to all of you. Never give up. Never, never, never give up. I mean, it's not like he's gonna win the race now, but you know, it's not this race he's trying to win. It's all of his future races.
Foregoing those safety fairies.
What's he got for safeties right now?
I don't.
He's got that
know.
fairy.
Yeah,
almost skipped that one too.
Thought about it. I personally like using the fire rod to clear out the tower, or the gauntlet tower, especially on those first 2 with those the skeletons, since the skeletons immediately melt once they get hit with the fire, where the other guys take a minute to burn.
Yeah, the skeletons don't have enough water to prevent them from instantly disintegrating.
Spontaneous combustion, folks, not a good thing.
Claims the lives of skeletons and Spinal Tap drummers alike.
Boom. Down goes Land Mold 2, and he'll make his way on it. But it's interesting to note, if this was a close race, and if Silvers were inside of on the Dark Magician's room or setup, how much of a difference that could have made.
Yeah, that's another point. Ganon's tower routing is not as simple as find the big key as fast as possible, since it's very, very common for silvers to actually end up being in Ganon's tower, since the only thing the game logically requires them for, the game only logically requires you to have the silvers for the final fight with Ganon. So it's a fairly simple matter for the game to decide to put them in GT.
Just see that a lot too. Seeing that they may not have enough, or if they miss one or two, goes to get that refill.
Now this is the point of yeah, decides not to do the strat of voiding out to get back to the door quicker. 5 hearts, even with red mail, is a little sketchy to do that if you haven't got a lot of safeties on hand. You're getting close to the end, and if Aga 2 trolls you a little bit, doesn't give you good patterns, you get a little cocky on your agonometry. Yeah, you don't really want to see the decision to void out coming to bite you.
I'm a little surprised they didn't powder that. 3 hearts. Yeah. Vertz, nope. Nope. Yes. Yes. Better get that refill. Okay. We're not doing it. We don't know, folks.
Maybe deciding to just up the ante a little bit, you know? What's the point? What's the point of finishing off the seed if you don't if you waste time playing it safe, you know?
I too like to live dangerously.
And also, this isn't too bad because you do get a free fairy before Ganon if you feel you really need it. You could even decide reasonably if your safeties are all potions. If you end up at the Ganon fight and you've only got 2 or 3 hearts still, and you're like, you know what? Maybe I could make this work. Worst case scenario, I take a quick death, go grab the fairy, try again. You know, it's sort of the least amount of time investment you could take into that. I wouldn't say that's a great play, but you could. If you're, again, going back, if you're a god gamer, decides to throw everything I said in the toilet and just take the safety before Aghanim. Never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, this is not a nice double.
Almost
I
a
don't
triple,
know.
but the angle was a little off. Never mind.
Oh, the ER. Down.
Are there any Winnie the Pooh
Down,
sprites? I know we got a Grand
down.
Pooh Bear sprite, but that's not really the same thing.
Now Fart's going to kill Aghanim.
It's bound to happen sooner or later.
And into the fray goes Fartsplosion. But he's... I do have to say that Fart has really come a long way since the beginning of this tournament. And it's super nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, even losing a race this handily, 207.
Yeah, I mean,
When you start out, you dream of times like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I remember my first single sitting, the first seat I ever completed in a single sitting. It was like 6 hours or something. I mean, granted, that was like, you know, my 3rd seed, but you know, it's well, sort of when I sort of got consistent with it, I was like, okay, yeah, I can guarantee I'll finish the seed in, you know, 2.5, maybe 3 hours. You know, that's reasonable to expect. If it's a bad seed, maybe up to 4.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And then you just get into that. Did you go into the town? Fine. Gets that torch pitch, very nice.
mean, after you get a couple races under your belt, it doesn't take a lot of effort to get consistent 230, but consistent sub 230, especially close to the 2-hour mark like this. I mean, the beginning of this seed was pretty quick, but there was a lot of time wasted at the end that, you know, to still put up a time like this is not trivial. It does take some, it takes some doing.
I do like that Fart is setting up for triple. So that's cool to see.
Yeah, anything to make this silverless fight a little faster.
Ooh.
There are a lot of runners that have the silverless fight sort of in their bag of tricks, in the sense that they know how to do it. But sometimes it can be worth, you know, it's like, hey, silverless Ganon, I'm ready to go for that, you know. I know how to do that really well, really consistently, quickly, every single time. Can be a skill worth having.
But gotta be a little careful here. Okay. Gotta be careful here. I don't know if he's got any more.
There could be anything in those 4 bottles. Could be 3 Bs. I know I've clutched many a Ganon fight on half a heart. Always a good feeling.
Don't know if he got the hit on that.
I think he did.
Oh, a little too far off.
Mm.
Please be a fairy. Please be a fairy. Yes. Yes, John's 3 Bs and didn't even allow it by kicking it out during the Ganon fight. Very sad.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can never tell, since we don't have the runner cam on stream. It could be as cool as a cucumber, or they could be sweating bullets, and you never know. It doesn't really reflect in the gameplay.
So it's up for that triple again. Gets the hit off.
Yeah, in order to get that triple, I believe you have to light the torch at a you know, in a specific phase of his cycle, and then hit him as he teleports away immediately.
Fart needs to be a little careful here, and probably switch to lamp. Got him. Very well. But yeah, I mean, he pretty much full cleared the whole dungeon or the whole game. And
yeah, we're gonna see in a few minutes here the collection rate comparison.
But a time of 4.
Oh, teases us a little bit. Looks like he's gonna dive down, wants another go.
The value. But GG's in the chat for the Fart. Well done. Nice to see that finish. 2:11 on almost a full clear of the game. That's still got to be feel good. Yeah, you lost, but the times are getting down for them still.
I don't know if we're gonna get an interview with Fartsplosion here. Might not be feeling it. There was something I was going to remember to ask one of these runners, but I may have remembered and forgotten what I was supposed to remember.
I know that feeling as well. See that Vertz is in the green room, and so is Fart. So we will be bringing you those Fartsplosion and Vertz.
Yeah, in the meantime, we have restored balance. The Triforce has been obtained on both halves of your screen, so we can all rest easy.
Farts, GG, well done. Way to finish that seed.
Thank you. Gotta finish it. It's the last seed.
Yeah.
Gotta play it out.
Yeah, I mean, we were just noting that 2:11 on almost a full clear. That's really good time.
Oh, for clear minus Turtle Rock.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Post go mode.
Thankfully, that's one of the situations where you love to see Samaria go mode.
Listen, if you're asking, I'll open the save back up. I'll go into Turtle Rock right now.
Watch silvers in the first chest.
Silver's for Scannon Tower.
Yep.
That's right. I missed that. But yeah, I think Fart did a solid job playing through it. We were talking about like, man, that Samaria location's not nice for the way that we routed this, based on when we got the fire rod.
Yeah, especially
so
given that
like
you guys
made a
had the
difference.
knowledge too, of the where the checks in Skull Woods were, that they were both behind the.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you played really well. I mean, outside of the one death in Ice Palace, there's not a
It
whole
was a
lot.
frustrating one too. I was trying to get to the potion, and the explosion animation.
Yeah, and I mean that's, to be perfectly fair, that was really the only major error. The rest just came down to sort of rando routing.
I had several technical difficulties on my side too.
We did. There were a couple of fun moments where it was like, he's like continuing to move in like a straight direction, or like stop moving. It's like, the controller just decided not to connect anymore.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 times probably.
A cat. We had a cat adventure that happened as well.
In Misery Mire, my cat walks on my keyboard, and all of a sudden my screen goes completely sideways, like 90 degrees.
We were wondering, like, because he had just finished, and we were thinking, he's just forfeiting at this point because,
No, I hadn't
we
even
didn't
seen
even
he
know.
finished. Vertz found out while he was Googling what to do in this situation and how to fix it.
I think right after we fixed it, I was like, we lost.
But I played a few rooms at a 90-degree tilt, and then when I was trying to figure out how to fix it, it was upside down for like 20 seconds.
Oh, yeah, was it the thing where, the entire Windows rotates?
Yeah, the entire screen.
Yeah, that's like the Windows key plus the, up, down, left, right.
Well, I could tell you that now.
Yeah, I've heard tell of that many a time. I've never had it happen to me, but anyways, going back to the race, how did it feel to come out of Ice Palace and find the sword on Hobo?
It was fine at that point. We got past Ice Palace. It was okay.
Yeah,
just happy to see it.
A lot of the lead that John had on you, John went and did the fake flippers checks early on, and also decided to go check the hospital's closet early on. So all that while that you had the fighter sword, John was rocking that tempered sword. So a lot of the lead was off the back of that.
Yeah, that will help. Yeah, I was thinking when I realized we lost, I was like, I feel like based on the timing, the cane is in an annoying place, and it's either Eastern Palace, which we skipped forever, or Skull Woods. So it's kind of a toss up at that point.
Yeah, I mean at that point,
but
you're throwing a
go
card at a dartboard, and you just kind of
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about it as Fart was climbing the tower, and I was kind of like, we got the fire rod right before we went on our long journey around Hyrule, and we never made use of that fire rod. And because I think in part I was so focused on, like, we had talked about going to Death Mountain for a while, and we kept putting it off, and we had Hookshot for a while and felt like didn't lead to anything. So we're like, well, maybe it's time, and just kind of like put fire rod out of our mind in a way, I think.
Yeah, we had several plans we followed through on for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You also disappointed chat by killing the Ped Hope early on.
Nobody rooted for Ped more than me. I want to see Ped every seed.
Yeah, we were mentioning at the time that it's like, hey, you were checking it, John wasn't. That would have been an exciting race if you'd known that we were looking at a ped seed. It was not to be this time. Maybe next time.
If as a viewer, if I'm a viewer and I'm rooting for ped, then I gotta root for it when I'm a racer, man. It's important to have moral standards.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to ped that early and you see, oh, it's a ped seed, then that just makes your routing so much different and better than somebody that's looking to just clear 7 crystals.
Yeah, especially with Pendant Skull Woods, because then there's no other convenient time to check pedestal.
Yeah.
You'd be, if you don't check it right there at the beginning, you're looking at, you know, almost last location before you check what's on that pedestal with the book. So I really liked that play.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well,
I also
anyway,
really liked the get a shovel and immediately get the lamp that we need to clear Desert Palace.
Yeah, it was kind of funny to see both of you do that. Just immediately, like, oh, you could leave it. You do have mirror. You could run that in with that Dark World check, and it's like, well, you wouldn't have been able to logically. That's for sure. Hammer was up that mountain.
And Desert Palace really didn't have anything either, which was a little surprising to me, seeing as that it gave you the book, it gave you everything you needed to beat it, outside of, you know, just, hey, just go beat it and have nothing.
Yeah, and that could have been routed in with the Mire too, since Mirror was again free. Wouldn't have been super nice to route it in with Mire, since we had that Samaria hunt, but
That would have been difficult.
But yeah, pretty solid race. I was saying earlier, your times have really come down from when you first started playing, especially at the beginning of the tournament, to now, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, I do want to
did we
point
get
that
a
out
final-
for sure.
do we get a final count on the checks?
165 out of 216.
Yeah, I know we're probably looking to close this out, but I do want to shout out Fart, because I think like one of the first community races where we had mentors with racers, I got partnered with him, and I was like, his name's great, I'm gonna partner with him. And he's gotten way better in just a couple of weeks, and it's super cool to see. So Fart, stick around, please. You're great.
Great
Oh, he's
job.
letting me know that his Discord is acting up a little bit, so that's why he's like not saying anything right now.
It's all good. But GG's again. Thanks.
Yeah,
for
he
coming in.
says thanks and good night and GG.
Yeah,
And
with
thanks
that
for
with that
watching,
good night.
everybody.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be wrapping this to a close. I know I've gotta wake up. I've gotta be at work in about four or 5 hours or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I wouldn't miss this this mentor tournament for the world. You know, I would miss it if it was, you know, during my shift. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. I've been Ezmar. This has been my co-commentator Grimlegend, Lumaga on tracking, and Jere Dudecia on the restream. And we will catch you next time, which will be when exactly? When's our next restream? Kind of blue-balled that ending there. It seemed very final until I realized we haven't announced when our next race is.
Got
This is why everybody loves volunteer-driven stuff, though, right?
It looks like it's going to be on the 23rd with EZ and
Oh yeah, Izzy
our
and
restream.
Jere Dudecia himself, the man. So yeah, that's all from me for tonight. So we'll catch you all next time.
Have a great day and thank you for supporting us. Give those runners a follow.